This is my Squish calculator. Its main uses are calculating the velocity of the squish and the volume under the squish band. If you look at this graph, this vertical line out here being top dead center, the squish velocity mostly controls this rise to peak combustion pressure. If that rise happens too quickly, you get detonation. This decline right here is mostly controlled by the squish volume. Okay, so when you're dealing with an existing head, sometimes you have to compromise between these two, and that's okay. It'll still wind up better than what it was before. So right here is, I'm going by the 5-degree after top dead center volume, and right here is the calculated squish velocity. And this is the recommended, and this is the maximum. The maximum being just on the edge of being too much, okay? And the recommended amount is dependent upon the compression ratio. So at 9-to-1, I'm recommending 75% of the max. As you go higher in compression ratio, that in itself causes a faster burn. So we don't need as much velocity. So as we go from 75% at 9-to-1, we're down to 70% at 10-to-1 and 65% at 11-to-1. And the reverse holds true for the lower compression, like at 7-to-1, it'd be 85%. And yeah, so it's just a balance between those two. And the squish ratio right here affects those two. So if you're dealing with an existing head, you don't really want to, to mess with it. You're just going to keep that bandwidth just the way it is, okay? So you're going to play with, on this calculator, these squish clearances and deal with these two, trying to find a nice happy medium. Right now, the recommended squish volume is 11.7%, and we've got 11.8%. So that's about perfect. And we've got a recommended squish velocity of 20.5 and a measured or calculated 23.1. So that's over. So the reason for that being is that the recommended squish ratio is a little bit more than 37%. And according to what you measured and entered, it's 42%. So with more squish band, you get a higher velocity and more volume. So if I was going to bring the velocity down, you'll see how it alters the volume. Okay, so we brought the velocity down a little bit, and we increased the squish volume a little bit. So if you look on this graph over here, you'll see from the ideal we've got more squish velocity and more squish volume. So going back to what it was. Okay, so by increasing the clearance, I'm bringing down the velocity, but I'm increasing here. Let's say if we wanted to bring it down to half of what it is right there, the difference. Be about 21.7, something like that. Okay, now I've got 21.5, and this is at 12.6. That'd be a good happy medium between the two. So if you don't know what your compression ratio is, you can use this calculator right here. Or this one right here, or this one right here. Which is easy enough. It's just measure the distance above the exhaust port minus deck. And then you put the piston at TDC and fill it with water. And look at when the water reaches the bottom of the threads for the spark plug. And then you pour that, while if you're using a syringe, you're able to tell how much you put in there. Or you can just pour it out and then measure. If you measure it in milliliters, that's the same thing as cc. So what else about this calculator? It shows the difference between the hot velocity and the cold velocity. It estimates the rod stretch, which I don't know if you know this, but TDC is higher when the engine's hot than when it's cold, because the rod elongates more than the cylinder does. So the reality is more about the hot velocity. But since everyone deals in the cold velocity, that's what this program's doing too. I don't know. Maybe I should have just made that leap of faith and dealt only with the hot velocity. But whatever. This is it right here. This is the peak hot velocity. And this is it graphed. You can see it peaks at 10 degrees before top dead center. And if you don't know what your peak power RPM is, you can get close to knowing it just by entering the exhaust port duration and the distance along the pipe, starting at the piston face to the end of the belly, okay, in millimeters. And conversion from, where is that? I think I've got an inch to millimeter conversion. Oh, yeah, here it is. And the conversion of that from inches to millimeters is right here. You enter the inches, and it'll show you how many millimeters it is. So it would be, yeah, when you enter that, this would be an estimate of the peak power RPM, which in this case would be 9,200. So if you don't know what it is, you don't have a dyno on your bike, if it's stock, then just go by this. So yeah, optimizing your squish is going to make your engine more efficient. You can have better power, more response, because all stock bikes come sloppy, and the sloppiness is towards too much squish clearance. And they do that because of manufacturing tolerances and because I think it might be a reliability issue also, because the less power an engine makes, the more reliable it is. So yeah, if you tighten up that squish, don't go overboard. You'll know how far to go by using this calculator. You can just keep playing with the different values right here. And if there's more clearance here than there is here, you can put the two different values right here. So I love this. I love this calculator. Also, if you don't want to take the engine apart and you know what the exhaust duration is, you can enter in the stroke and the Conrod length here and get an estimate from the exhaust duration, what the millimeters above the exhaust port is, to enter right here. So yeah, that's it for now. This is a ballpark figure. What's more specific is the velocity and the squish volume. Even though this chart doesn't compensate for the engine compression. With this scale right here, you have to use this formula right here. 360 minus the exhaust port duration times 83, and then divided by the peak power RPM. I'll give you a certain number which you can put along here. Let's say it's 1.75. You say, oh, okay, is this line right here? And then you run into the graph, and then you go directly over here. So in this case, it'd be like 41 or 42% squish area. Okay, my friend, thank you for watching. Be well.